Welcome back to MWO Sports here on CKNX Radio and Whiteman TV. Ryan Drury here. We'll be joined by a great special guest, co-GM of the Walkerton Hawks. Chum McAskill will jump on to talk about the upcoming season and the Hawks' outlook as the PJHL gets ready to get started on October 1st. Then Sabby will jump on with me. Steve Sabourin and I will chat about the NFL opening kickoff. Can Tom Brady go back-to-back with the Bucs? How are the divisions going to shake out? And of course, we got to talk about the Blue Jays. They are rocking and rolling, and we'll relive our day at the Jays, the MWO Sports crew, as we watch the Jays destroy my Oakland Athletics. That's all coming up next year on MWO Sports.
This is MWO Sports.
Welcome back to MWO Sports here on CKNX Radio. Ryan Drury here, and I'm very pleased to be joined by another great special guest from the local junior hockey scene, the co-GM of the Walkerton Hawks, Chum McAskill on the line. Chum, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How about you, Ryan?
I'm doing great because hockey's around the corner finally.
Yeah,
what a relief.
finally.
I can't wait, and I know you're enthusiastic about it. I mean, how excited are you to just get back in the rink and see some great junior hockey?
I'm excited. We had our first skate last night. We had 22 kids out. Sorry, it's washed here. We had both 22 kids out, and we're excited to get going.
Chum, I know that, in recent years, obviously we saw a pretty sustained period of dominance from the Walkerton Hawks. And then over the last couple of years, you guys have went young. It's been a bit of a rebuild that you guys called it, a retool, if you will. And then obviously we lose all of last year to COVID and the playoffs get cut short and everything like that. Just how excited are you to kind of, show everybody what sort of work you've been doing with the roster and just what can we expect out of the roster in terms of returning players potentially?
In terms of returning players, we've made a couple of deals to sell off a couple of our older guys to go younger. It's still, Steve and I have the mindset, a 3-year, 4-year plan. That's still the progress. One kid that we've dealt Owen Torrey to the Hanover Barons in return for probably a stud defenseman in Derek Cornfield. But in retrospect, we're going to Mount Forest is very, very interested in Derek, and that's where he wants to play. And we're just waiting to see what comes available in Mount Forest to send Derek to Mount Forest.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that trade the other day on Wednesday, Hanover posting about it. And obviously, you get a great player back, but obviously you've got some flexibility in terms of potentially getting some other assets in. Just how difficult has it been in terms of working out the roster over the last year? And, as soon as we found out the season, hockey's coming back, it kicks things into overdrive. Just how busy have you and Steve Barrett been trying to piece this all together?
I'll be honest. It's only been in the last probably 2 or 3 weeks that we started to put our heads together to put a roster together for this year. We weren't sold that there was going to be a season, but the PJHL has said that they have a start date of October 1st, and that's the goal. So it's been kind of rushed to put a squad together. Right now, we haven't put any names on paper signing. That's probably going to happen this weekend. We have another skate on Sunday. And then we'll get to work.
Now, just in terms of the rebuild, how valuable has it been to you guys to be able to tap into the local hockey pipeline? I mean, Walkerton minor hockey, it's obviously a really big part of what you guys are doing. How important has that been in that relationship in terms of getting local players into the program?
Walker minor hockey. We the last time we were on the ice, we took probably 4 or 5 kids out of Walkerton minor hockey to play. This year, some of those kids have said, they're not interested in playing because of the mandate that the PJHL has of double vaccination. It's right now it's tough tough to fill a roster right now. But you know what? Steve and I are gonna work very hard at putting the best players that want to play for Walkerton on the ice.
Now, Chum, I know you got to go. You're a busy guy, so I'll just ask you one last thing. Obviously, the coaching staff. Now, you had the benefit of having a guy in Brad Tiley who's got a ton of pro experience to guide the roster. Is the coaching staff going to be back? And if so, just how valuable is that to have with a young team?
Brad will be back. Brad has indicated he's keen to be back. Other than that, you know what, we're actively looking for help. The assistant coach that we had 2 years ago, my younger brother, is not returning. It's a huge commitment. Bob lives in Coburg, and he was making the drive every weekend up here, and it was getting to be too much. So we're actively looking for hopefully a couple of local guys that have some interest in coaching, and we'll go from there.
That sounds good. But hey, like I said, having Brad back, I mean, he's such a well of experience, and that's going to be great for some of the young kids that you bring into the Walkerton Hawks.
Exactly. You know what? And Brad's a good communicator with the young guys. And that's another reason why, you know what, we want to do this 3-4 year plan with younger guys and get the kids to adjust to the way Brad wants them to play and go from there.
That sounds great. Well, Brad's always been good with us, and so have you and Steve. We always appreciate how available you guys are to us here at CKNX. And Chum, like I said at the start, we're really excited to get back into the Walkerton Arena and bump into you guys. Best of luck throwing the roster together, and I can't wait to see you at the rink, man.
You too, Ryan. Take care.
All right, we'll take a quick break here on MWO Sports. When we come back, Steve Sabourin will jump on with me. Hey, we're recording this on NFL opening night. Tom Brady begins his quest to repeat as a champion in Tampa Bay. Can he do it? Will Dallas cause an upset? We'll talk about that and more here on MWO Sports.
This is MWO Sports.
Welcome back to MWO Sports here on CKNX Radio, and of course with our friends on Whiteman as well. Remember, you can find us on our YouTube channel as well. Friday nights debuting at 9. We air Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 on Whiteman, 6 o'clock Friday nights on CKNX, AM 920, CKNX.ca. Thanks to our friend Chum McAskill, the co-GM of the Walkerton Hawks, for joining me here earlier on the show. And Steve Sabourin joins me now. And Steve, I mean, as Chum said, we're excited to get back in the rinks. We're excited to finally see all these junior teams that we've covered for a number of years back on the ice. And the Walkerton Hawks, we've talked about it the last couple seasons after a period of sustained dominance in terms of regular season success, certainly anyway. They definitely took a step back the last couple of years, started a full-scale rebuild, started going younger, and they're going to kind of continue that philosophy as well. But Brad Tiley coming back behind the bench, and as I mentioned with Chum, that's obviously a huge advantage to them to have a guy like that leading the charge.
Yeah, you know what? Great success at a number of levels. And, we saw the Tiley family do well. Of course, his daughter, Shay, part of that national pool as a goaltender. So maybe we'll see her on the international stage for the Canadian team in the future. And Alex, of course, winning a Sutherland Cup a few years ago. And it's going to be good. I think Brad brings a lot of stability to the bench. He knows his stuff. And, it's going to be interesting to find out, is it harder to start from scratch on a new rebuild or kind of rebuild on your rebuild? Because, Walkerton seemed to be right in the middle of things and slowly climbing up the ladder. So it'll be interesting to see what they can bring to the table. On the other side, it's we've mentioned before, it's a fresh start. So, you can go into the season with a little bit of confidence, knowing that one team really hasn't carried over from last season with a big roster. Want to mention about the PGHL, Ryan, we have our broadcast schedule set on CKNX. We'll be excited to bring the opening game of the season, Mitchell in Kincardine, on October the 1st. That'll be an 8:30 start for the Davidson Center. And as we always try to do on OHA Hockey on CKNX, is spread it around across the different communities. So we'll get a number of games featuring the Walkerton Hawks, the Hanover Barons, Mount Forest, Wingham, but we're going to open up with Mitchell in Kincardine on Friday, October the 1st. And the other thing, of course, the Listowel Cyclones getting back on the ice, and I'm excited to say that we will be carrying their home opener on Sunday, September the 26th against Caledon. Note that Listowel is on the road on the Friday the 24th in Stratford, so that'll be a good game there. But we will be at the Steve Kerr Memorial on Sunday, September 26th for the 1:30 start as the Cyclones take on the Caledon Bombers, formerly Brampton Bombers, at Steve Kerr. So excited to bring you all of the action. We'll be with Listowel for 11 games in the regular season, plus their entire playoff run, hoping it goes a few series. And the PGHL, of course, a number of games, and we'll be back on the air soon.
Yeah, it's exciting. We're excited to get back to work. It's going to be great. And yeah, obviously a little bit of a flip on our end where we, of course, usually air Friday night games, but with Listowel being on the road that opening Friday, we'll shift over to the Sunday, and that's going to be great. I can't wait to get back in the Steve Kerr. Speaking of the Steve Kerr, the Cyclones did put out a release as we record this. They have their COVID protocol out for all fans and media members as well, and anyone else who will be attending the games. They're going to set the capacity at the Steve Kerr at 400 people. Everybody will have to wear a mask the entire time that they're in the facility and maintain 6 feet of social distancing. As far as the Blue Line Club is considered, they're going to have a max occupancy of 50 people up there, and immediately following the final horn of the game, everyone that's in the Blue Line Club will have to vacate because, of course, post game, that is where the team eats dinner. And so everybody is going to have to be out of there and have the team there just with the space for themselves. Of course, you know, this is the Cyclones following the league mandate and, of course, the provincial health mandate. So, you know, this isn't their fault or anything. You know, I would just say to anybody going to the games, you know, don't take it out on the volunteers and the staff. And the majority of the staff in junior hockey, remember, folks, they are volunteers. A lot of them are volunteers, especially at the lower levels like junior B and junior C. Just be kind, be courteous to these people. They're just doing what they're told from the higher ups. But that is the COVID mandate for the Cyclones. I'm excited to get back in there. We will definitely be among the 400 allowed for 11 dates, as Steve said, and of course their entire playoff run.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, things will get better as the season goes on, Ryan. But yeah. Just want to reinforce that, you know, for those that can get there, you know, safety is in place and you can enjoy a live junior hockey game again. If you can't make it, again, CKNX will have a call for you on certain dates. And we're happy to welcome PBJ Cleaning Depot Group, more than just cleaning supplies, as our title sponsor this year. So thank you to those at PBJ Cleaning Depot Group, ready to carry us through the season. And we'll be ringside for sure.
Yeah, we're excited about that. Paul and Bobby Joe and the entire crew over there. It's exciting that we've got a title sponsor and a lot of sponsors returning as well. A lot of names that'll sound familiar to our listeners over the years as well. We're really thankful for PBJ and all of our sponsors, obviously, because without them, we can't bring you the broadcasts. And I know a lot of people in the region enjoy them, and we're excited to bring them back to you. Speaking of things returning, we're recording this on the kickoff of the NFL season. The Super Bowl defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with my boy Tom Brady leading the charge, trying to become the first team to go back-to-back since Brady did that with the 03 and 04 Patriots, a time of my life that I definitely look back on fondly. Three Super Bowl titles in 4 years for the Patriots back in those days. But they're taking on the Dallas Cowboys. And Steve, you'll remember I made a pretty bold prediction on the Cowboys. I think that they can make the NFC Championship game. I'm going to stick by that. And I think mostly, Steve, it's just for the fact that I really like Dak Prescott. I think he's a tremendous guy. I felt awful for him last year. Of course, football fans will remember the gruesome leg injury I mean, the very first thing you think of was, Theismann and, worried about this guy's long-term career because he's an extremely talented player and Dallas needs this guy. I would love it just for him to be able to take this team there. And they've certainly got the offensive weapons. We'll see what Zeke Elliott's like. I mean, he's had some health concerns over the last year and a half as well, but a great kickoff for the NFL season. And there's obviously going to be a number of storylines. We touched on it recently. The Bills, fighting for a new facility. Can the Chiefs get back to prominence? What are the Steelers going to look like? But a pretty good opening night kickoff game for the NFL as per usual, Steve.
Well, you know what? It's going to be interesting in the NFC because if you look at the odds, you look at the number of teams that are in the top 10. The Rams are up there in the top 5. The 49ers are favored to make it pretty far. You've got Seattle in the mix, a rejuvenated Seahawks team. I think the number of teams that are available to go deep is more in the NFC than there is the AFC. I think you can clear cut the AFC down to Kansas City, Buffalo for sure, and then you scatter a little bit of maybe Baltimore, Cleveland in there. Tennessee, kind of Indianapolis might make some noise.
Yeah.
But if you're to say today, who would you expect in the AFC Championship? You could say KC and Buffalo pretty confidently if they match up that way, depending on the standings. When you look at the NFC, it's pretty much wide open. Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, despite the troubles in the offseason, he's Aaron Rodgers. And when he steps on the field, everything just takes a back seat and he looks for the win. Again, I mentioned the Rams. I mentioned the 49ers. You'll probably see New Orleans drop off a little bit. Big piece of their team over a number of years. Drew Brees, of course, retiring. So it'll be interesting to see how New Orleans comes out this season. But it's exciting. And I still say, Ryan, you'll be buying that steak dinner by the end of the year when Dallas gets eliminated in the first round, if they make it that far.
Wow. Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. I agree with you on the AFC side of things. Things feel a little bit more clear cut on that side of the ledger. The NFC, there's going to be some bad teams there. Sure. You look at the likes of Atlanta, of course, not that the AFC has, no bad teams, the Jets, but yeah, you look over there and there are a lot of interesting storylines more so to me on the NFC side. I mean, obviously our viewers can see I'm a diehard Patriots fan and I remain so despite Tom Brady leaving. I'm not that fair weather guys. That's an interesting thing to me. What does Mac Jones look like? Bill Belichick spent a lot of money on guys. Hunter Henry, of course, lots of defensive upgrades, Jonnu Smith. But on the NFC, there's a lot of storylines. One I look at is the NFC West. You mentioned the 49ers, the Rams, and then you bring the Cardinals and the Seahawks into the mix. That's the division I'm looking at that's going to be crazy because let's start with the 49ers. They went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Obviously, they come up short. Then last year, they are riddled with injuries. I mean, Nick Bosa's out. Garoppolo gets hurt. A giant majority of, I don't think they had a single game, Steve, where all of their starting wide receivers and running backs played at the same time. Then, of course, George Kittle, who some would consider the best tight end in football. You can argue about Travis Kelce, of course. He goes down for a majority of the year. Like, you turn around, they've named Jimmy their starting guy. Obviously, Trey Lance in the mix out of the draft. But, like, if they're healthy, a majority of that dominant defense is back. Could they go back? Kyle Shanahan has shown that he's a versatile head coach. He's going to be able to use his weapons. And if Kittle is healthy all year and guys like Raheem Mostert, that's giant for them. Could they be in the mix? Then you look at Seattle and you go, yeah, Russ. Is the defense a little suspect? Yes, it is. But if Russ is cooking, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, they've got Chris Carson, dominant offensive production there when they're rolling. The Cardinals are the team I'm looking at, and I'm actually going to put some money down on the Cardinals winning the division. I love Kyler Murray. He broke my heart as an Oakland A's fan, of course, because he's one of those crazy dual sport athletes. He could have went into the MLB and was a first-round pick of the Oakland A's as a pitcher, chose to go the NFL route because, of course, you can make a ton more money just going straight to the NFL. You pair him up with DeAndre Hopkins. They've got a great coaching staff there. They really upgraded their defense. Watt coming over. Is he going to be able to be healthy? I think they're going to make a ton of offensive noise. And then, of course, you can't forget the Rams. They trade for Matthew Stafford, who has shown to be a giant cannon arm. Now he's got a great offensive line. Arguably the best defense in the NFL. You could make a case for the Rams there with Aaron Donald, and he's got some great targets to throw to now. It's not just a one-dimensional offense anymore for Matt Stafford. He's going to have Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Tyler Higbee to throw to. Boy, the Rams, they might have something to say. That NFC West division, Steve, I think it's going to be the most compelling one to watch.
There's 32 teams in the NFL. In the Super Bowl odds, in the top 14, the 4 NFC West teams are in there. Arizona at number 14, Seattle at number 10. Then you got San Francisco at 5, the Rams at 3. And then when you look at the top 3, Kansas City, Tampa, Buffalo. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting for sure. There's also some news, Ryan, out today that may have put Baltimore's hopes on the shelf. Cornerback Marcus Peters and running back Gus Edwards both suffer potentially serious knee injuries at practice. And knee injuries can be very, very dangerous. So until we get more word on what those actually are, I mean, for a cornerback and running back, I mean, those two positions cut a lot. And that could put some strain on them, especially at the beginning of the season. Because if you lose, say 3 out of your first 5 games, you're in tough, especially in the NFL, even though you've got the extra game this year. But we'll have to see what happens with Baltimore. But in the end, my money is still on the AFC to walk away this year with the Super Bowl.
I agree because, I mean, even if my quote-unquote Dallas Cowboys get there, I don't think that they could beat either of the Chiefs or the Bills. And then, you look at the rest of the competition down the way in the AFC. Yeah, Baltimore's going to have something to say. And you're right. I mean, losing Gus Edwards and Peters, I mean, Gus Edwards, it's funny the way things work out. I had my final fantasy draft last night. Of course, our coworker Adam Bell was in this league, so he invited me to join in. I almost took Gus Edwards, and now I'm kind of glad I did, and I hope he gets healthy, of course. But yeah, Baltimore, they're an interesting team. But yeah, you're right. You drop a few games, especially in that division, like the AFC North. Like Pittsburgh's not just going to go away, and I'm actually expecting a big bounce back from them. Like, yes, Big Ben's a year older. Is he in the greatest shape of all time? He never has been, but he's still got weapons there. Juju Smith-Schuster, they've got Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, who really broke out last year. He had that 4-touchdown game, the Canadian, and they've still got solid running options. And hey, Mike Tomlin, he's one of the best coaches of all time. He's starting to stake his claim as one of the most consistent coaches ever. This team's going to bounce back. I mean, they're at least going to try to. And then Cleveland, like, what does Cleveland have? They, after years of misery in the dog pound, they showed up last year and actually proved, we're actually a pretty dangerous team and somewhat capable of playing consistently. Baker looked good last year. I'm expecting more from him, OBJ and Jarvis Landry. Like, yeah, this could do some serious damage with this recent injury report to Baltimore's chances because you get outside of Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown, who's inconsistent at best at catching the football. That doesn't leave Lamar an awful lot of option. He might be running a lot more than he's maybe ready for, Steve. Yeah, and the thing about Cleveland is the biggest thing for them is their mental game. I mean, they have all the physical tools they need. I was actually lucky enough to catch Cleveland a couple seasons ago at the Dog Pound when they played Buffalo.
And yeah, fantastic. They can eat you up on the ground. They have the quick strike capability. They can work the sidelines. It's all there. But for whatever reason, through the years, they crumble mentally and make that one mistake at a bad time that turns the tide. They seem to get rid of a lot of those last season and were able to make some noise, but I'm sure they're going to want to go a little deeper. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see them kind of move up the standings from where they were last year. Your Patriots I think they made a great move in naming Mac Jones starting quarterback. They weren't going anywhere. It almost reminds me of the Tom Brady move is, okay, let's cut loose, start with our rookie, and might as well get him into games because there's no reason to sit there and waffle because you already know you've got several teams ahead of you in the standings. Buffalo's a powerhouse in your division. So they're expected to win. So why not go with the youngster and give him the time and get him experience back there? That's why you picked him to lead your team, and might as well put him in there now. And if you look at the number of new quarterbacks coming into the league this season, it's going to be pretty exciting to see this class kind of grow through the system. And then, of course, you got that great veteran core and Tom Brady, who's now the ancient one at the ripe old age of 44, oldest quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're still waiting for Father Time to catch Tom. It's bizarre. Like he could just retire. He could just retire. It speaks to the level of how much he loves the game and how much preparation he's willing to put in to continue to be this excellent. And really, obviously everybody's read about how well he takes care of his body. This guy's eating avocado ice cream and all this nonsense. I mean, I think he drank tequila for the first time ever post Super Bowl there on the boat. He couldn't stand up at the harbor in Tampa. But he takes great care of himself. And Steve, outside of that horrific knee injury in 2008 that took him out for the entire season, I'll never forget that, the second snap of the season. And someone on Kansas City actually went low on his knee and destroyed his leg. Outside of that, he hasn't had any significant injuries in his career that have hampered him. Now, of course, he had a significant knee surgery in the offseason, played in the Super Bowl with a bit of a bothered knee. But outside of that, like, this guy's kept himself incredibly healthy and he just keeps on wanting to win. It's weird. I think it'll be rare. We might not see a guy win at this level in really any sport ever again in our lifetimes, and it's been fun to watch. But you're right, Mac Jones, I'm interested to see. Obviously, he's got to shake that whole Alabama pro quarterback stigma, because you look at Alabama quarterbacks, they come into the NFL and they really haven't done well. I mean, can Tua turn it around eventually? I almost still consider Tua a rookie because of his injury problems in Miami. He's going to be the starter, of course. And then you look at all the other guys coming in: Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, who will start for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's another thing that I'm interested in too, Steve. Another storyline that's sticking out in the NFL. How good can Trevor Lawrence be out of the gate with Urban Meyer, a career college coach, a great college coach, behind the helm? Is it going to work in Jacksonville? We've seen these great college coaches. We saw Nick Saban try and do it. Come in, Chip Kelly to a degree, come in and try and have success at the NFL, and it doesn't really translate. I'm really, really interested to see if Jacksonville can get the wheels moving in the right direction down there, because they do have talent on offense. They do have talent for Lawrence to throw to, Steve.
Well, I mean, Pete Carroll's done it. Jim Harbaugh's done it.
Yep.
So, I mean, there has been success, but not necessarily with a quarterback freshly out of college. So now, I mean, the mental game, the capacity to communicate is probably on solid ground. Former elite college coach, former elite college player, but both will have to step it up to reach the NFL level. And your comment about Mac Jones and shaking the stigma of the Crimson Tide is he has one thing that a lot of those other quarterbacks didn't have, and that's Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, there's a big, whether you agree with Bill Belichick or not, he seems to, prune success. And it'll be interesting to see. I will make one more comment about Tom Brady, Ryan. And there is one thing that we definitely won't see anytime soon in our area, especially in Holyrood, where you can get some awesome ice cream cones, is avocado ice cream. I'll stick with my chocolate chip cookie dough. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I'll also stick with my mint chip and Rocky Road. Tom, thank you. I like an avocado. I like ice cream. I don't think I'll be combining them, but hey, that's why I'm not a 7-time Super Bowl champion. That's right. All right, we'll take a quick break here. When we come back, of course, let's talk about the Blue Jays. We, of course, recently attended the Jays-Oakland game, the series finale. They choke slammed my Oakland A's into the baseball field. We'll talk about that in this great run the Jays are on, including the power of Robbie Ray and the tight pants on the mound. We'll talk about that next here on MWO Sports.
This is MWO Sports.
Welcome back to wrap things up here on MWO Sports here on CKNX Radio and, of course, Whiteman TV. Ryan Drury alongside Steve Sabourin. Sabby, let's talk about the Blue Jays. My God, we were, had Clarke on here. They're out of it. They're done. They lost a couple games to Baltimore. No way they're making the playoffs. Well, they must have hurt them because all of a sudden they put some anger into the bats and into the arms because as we record this, they're on a 7-game win streak. They tore through my Oakland A's recently, and they're doing the same thing to the Yankees as we record this. It's game 4 of that Yankee series. They're going for a sweep of the Bronx Bombers with Jose Barrios on the hill tonight as we record. Alek Manoah was great again, but then, of course, we got to witness who, in my opinion, Steve, on that Sunday game when we went down the MWO crew to see the Jays in Oakland, and they unfortunately beat up on my A's real bad, 8-0. They 2-hit them. We got to see, in my opinion, the AL Cy Young winner now. Just his performance down the stretch here, it cemented it for me ahead of Garrett Cole, ahead of Lance Lynn. Robbie Ray pitched a gem, 10 Ks. He one-hit the Oakland A's, who have some power bats in that lineup, and he became, I believe, the first pitcher in Jays history to have 4 straight outings with 10-plus Ks. He was unbelievable in that game. The fastball was electric. The slider was working for him. It was incredible, but overall, he's the central figure right now, along with some of the other arms, empowering the Jays along this incredible win streak, and they're right there in the wild card dance, Steve.
Well, it's interesting because in Wednesday night's game against the Yankees, the Jays hitters held out for 7 walks off the Yankees starter. And there were some comments from the broadcast booth there about pitchers seen today. Teams are just okay with them throwing, 95, 96, and then location, we can work on later. And so they'll eat the walks and take the power. Robbie Ray is power controlled. His ability to master the strike zone with a 95-mile-per-hour pitch, and I think he hit 96 at least once when we watched. That grunt that you hear from 30 rows up when he throws the pitch in and just puts that more emphasis into the throw. This is the first time all season that I think you can actually look at the Jays starting rotation and say, wow, that's a pretty good playoff starting rotation if they can get there. You've got 3 lefties who are awesome in Hyunjin Ryu, Robbie Ray, and Steven Matz. And then you've got the 2 righties sandwiched in. Not many teams can say, hey, we've got 3 lefties that we can throw at you at any time, and they can get the job done. So, that's fantastic. Not only that, but you're seeing Jay starters starting to go a little deeper into the game. Robbie Ray went 6 2/3 innings on the Sunday we watched against Oakland. Just couldn't get that last out. But that's huge on your bullpen. If you can last deep into the 6th or even 7 innings and only rely on your bullpen for 6 outs, that's massive. If you start getting knocked out in the 4th or the 5th, that's a long haul against really good hitting teams. So, yeah, very excited to see what the Jays pitchers are doing and coming together. And, of course, we got to talk about the offense. They are just shredding the ball, attacking it. And you know what? The great thing is that, Vladdy will take a single. He doesn't have to hit the bomb. So he'll hit a single, take the pitch that's given to him in a situation, and let the next guy hit. And they're hitting. Alejandro Kirk had 3 home runs and I think 6 plate appearances going into Tuesday night's game. He was on fire. He was slotted in as the DH for a couple of games. So the Jays have options, and they're doing the job. And it's interesting now because as of September, after the game September the 8th, the Jays knocked the Yankees out of that first wild card spot. Boston held the first wild card spot. Yankees were number 2. Jays a game and a half back of the Yankees going into the Thursday night game. So we'll have to see what happens down the stretch. You got to remember, they still have, I believe, 6 games. The Jays have 6 against Tampa. They've got 3 more against the Yankees, and then they have Minnesota and Baltimore squeezed into their schedule to end the month of September. So it's going to come down to the wire, and let's just hope they can continue their excellence.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you look at the teams involved with them, Seattle, my Oakland A's, of course, who mercifully have won 2 straight as we record this against the White Sox, proving they can actually beat a decent team. They're not going to slow down, but they've got tough schedules. Oakland, of course, coming into September, the toughest schedule among teams in the playoff race. I mean, they are up against it. So the Jays, you're right. They need to keep winning and ideally mixed in there with Boston, who now sit at 80 wins and snagged a couple off the Rays, off the back of Hunter Renfroe's heroics the other day. They're not going anywhere either, but they've got those COVID worries. Of course, that's balanced out a little bit by Chris Sale coming back and looking like Chris Sale, which is scary. But the Jays have got to keep it up, and it might come down. Yes, they've got those games left against the Yankees, one of which you're going to go attend, which is exciting. But those games against Minnesota and Baltimore, they might have to win all of them. They might have to win all of them, and they can do that. They're proving right now in this run, which hopefully continues tonight as we record this against the Yankees, because I would love to see them miss the playoffs. If my Oakland A's can't go, and there's one team that I would like to see also not go, it's the New York Yankees. But yeah, they're proving that they can do this against really good teams and good pitchers. You mentioned their hitting, Steve, in terms of some of the pitchers that they're seeing and doing damage against. Garrett Cole, they lit him up the other night. If they come down to the wire against Minnesota and Baltimore and stumble there's going to be some broken hearts in the 4-1-6. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, no, those are games that they have to go in with the mindset that they could determine their playoff fate. Win those, get those into the win column, and worry about the Yankees later. Tampa Bay, that's going to be a tough haul. They've always had, as a franchise, a tough time with Tampa Bay. So if they can at least get a split with the Rays and kind of float and then go into Minnesota in high gear and take care of the Twins and then face the Yankees near the end of September, which could determine their wild card fate at that time. And hopefully the last series against Baltimore to end September, hopefully there's nothing on the line there. But at least you might have a safety cushion and be able to beat Baltimore to end the season. It's been exciting. And I know there's been a lot of talk between us about the Toronto Blue Jays stumbling at times, but it was fun to watch when we went down and, the pickups they made in the offseason. We talked to our friend Rodney Heemstra, former CKNX employee, and of course, now with the Jays organizations. And, the talk about Marcus Semien, not only his performance on the field, but Rodney's comment, he's probably one of the most professional athletes he's ever met in the way he prepares and works. And I think that's translated to the team, and it's created an atmosphere of, hey, if we put the work in, we can come out on top. And Marcus Semien making a name for himself for sure. And hopefully that leadership continues into the playoffs and they get Springer back. And the nice thing is, because the Jays are doing so well in the last couple of games without Springer in the lineup, give Springer a little more time to rest up and make sure he's 100% before stepping back on the field.
Well, that game that we attended, Semien crushed a home run, and it was the only Jays run of the 8 that I stood up and saluted for because, of course, part of my heart as an Oakland A's fan, and that part of me was ripped out when he left. And you're right. This guy, it doesn't matter where he's been, starting off in Chicago and now coming over to Oakland. Now the Jays here on this 1-year, $18 million deal, which is a steal based on the production that he has provided. $18 million is a thievery, and this guy is going to get paid. I mean, he's going to squeeze the juice out of someone's wallet. It's not going to be John Fisher's, I'll tell you that. But, we talked a little bit at that game, just, people seem to have a narrative right now. And I was listening to the Overdrive guys talking about this too the other day with Steve Phillips. Where is this narrative coming from that it's just written in the stars that he has to not be a Blue Jay next year? Like, we've talked a bit about the roster and the shuffling that can go on here. And listen, I'm not in charge of this team's budget, but if this team has been selling fans this year on, look, we've signed these guys, we're bringing these guys in, we've got this young core, we're serious about winning. They showed that again at the deadline, getting Barrios. If that is the case, why the hell can't they re-sign this guy and bring him back? Because look, you've got who was the pitcher that they ended up DFAing that they tried to bring in, the former national that started, I don't know why his name is escaping me, that had the gas can ERA that they DFA'd. His money is coming off the books. That's about $12 million. You've got Randall Grichuk, who makes $10.5 million. Do they necessarily need him in this lineup? I don't think so. If it means moving his 10.5 out to maybe bring in a cheaper bullpen option to bolster that bullpen and taking the rest of the majority of that money and giving it to Semien, I do that in a heartbeat. He is settled in. If you're married to Bo Bichette being your shortstop, who better to have standing there at second base than Semien, who turned into a great shortstop? Remember, a few years back, Marcus Semien led the league in errors by shortstops, and he worked with the Oakland staff there, and it helped. He had Matt Chapman there at third to help him. He rounded into a great defensive shortstop. He was also third in AL MVP voting in 2019. As I rattle all these off, I still can't believe John Fisher let this guy walk. It's an embarrassment. But why can't the Jays bring this guy back? They've got a lot of salary that they're going to be able to move off the books. They've got team control on Vladdy and Bo, so if they want, they can squeeze them and give them a quote-unquote bridge deal, if I can use a hockey term there, and pump some money into a 3. He's going to be 31 years old. It's not like he's going to get a 6 or 7 year deal, but why can't they give this guy 3 years at $100 million or something like that? I'm not buying it.
Well, it's very similar to what the Toronto Raptors went through with Kawhi Leonard. A great run. Now, for Toronto, it ended up in a championship. For the Jays, yet to be seen where they end up. But again, a great run. But Marcus Semien, as a player, is going to take advantage of the season that he's had and go to where he wants to go, and that's back to the West Coast. I can foresee him going to the Dodgers. That's really the team on the West Coast that has the coin. They'll have some room for him on the field. And it's funny, right? Because the teams who just keep throwing money out and getting guys like the Yankees, the Dodgers, you could argue the Red Sox, but as it's the same situation. He'll probably want to move on after this year. Toronto was a 1-year stop. And like, as a Jays fan, would I like to see him stay? Absolutely. But then the other thing too is there's no way Bichette and Vlad's agents are going to go for bridge deals. They're going to lock in. And if you're looking at a business model from the Toronto Blue Jays standpoint, they're the two guys that are going to take you down the road longer.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. And yeah, it's a good point by you. I mean, you can't sign a player if he doesn't want to stay, right? And it won't be I hope Jays fans don't take it as like a sign of disrespect or anything, but it's similar to Kawhi in that sense that Semion's an Oakland native. He's not coming back to Oakland, but he does have a strong desire and a rooted interest. His family's still on the West Coast, so it would make sense. And of course, who else but the Dodgers are going to pony up the money? It makes me sick. The economics of baseball are a little bit of a mess. But if that's the case, then you're going to take that $18 million and let it walk. By God, they better re-sign Robbie Ray, because we've talked about him. It was electric watching him destroy Oakland when we went on Sunday. This guy, he's the Cy Young Award winner. If the season ends right now, he's the Cy Young winner. And I don't see him slowing down in the next, what's he got left? 5 starts, give or take. I don't see the guy slowing down. He's a K machine. And you think about the level that this guy was at when they acquired him. He was a walk machine. You look back at the Arizona days and couldn't figure it out. Always had good movement on his pitches, just could not get them to land where he wanted. And just another feather in the cap, if you will, for Pete Walker. Look at the guys over the years that Pete Walker has turned into, either for small stretches or very long stretches, dominant pitchers. Now look what he's doing with a young guy, his first year in the league in Manoah. Barrios has had a couple bumps in the road, but Pete's working with him. He'll figure it out. And Ryu, for the most part, in his time as a J, has been rock solid and worth every bit of money they paid him. So if you're not going to bring Semien back, oh my, you better re-sign Robbie Ray.
No, absolutely. And you're going to get more out of that starting left-handed pitcher who arguably could be your number one starter going into next season with the performance he's had. And, again, no knock against Semien. You'd love to have his bat in the lineup and his leadership, but there's several other guys that can possibly do the same thing. Vladdy's going to be a year older. Bichette's going to have another year under his belt. Biggio has yet to come back. Maybe he can start producing a little bit more. We've seen what Alejandro Kirk can do with the bat. So there's more opportunity to fill that spot than there would be your 1 or 2 pitcher coming onto the mound. When you put side by side, losing Ray is more detrimental. And if you don't do everything you can as a club to re-sign him, then that's too bad. So, we'll see what happens, and let's ride the wave right now while the getting's good. I was watching some former Blue Jays clips after that win against the Yankees the other night, Wednesday, turning back time a little bit, watching Joe Carter's home run in the 93 World Series, watching the Batista bat flip against the Rangers in Game 5 of the ALDS. Hopefully we can see some of that excitement this season to end the ball run come October.
Absolutely. And Jays fans deserve it, man. They've put up with a lot. Their team has not been at home in basically 2 years. They're finally back. They're on a run here. It would be very, very exciting for the country and baseball fans all over Canada, particularly here in Southern Ontario. If we could see some magical playoff moments, that would be amazing. And hey, they're in the fight now. They've got the swords out. They're ready to go. And it looks like that they've got their eyes set on one of those wild card spots, and that would be extremely exciting for everybody. All right, wrapping up here. This is our second last MWO Sports. Next week will be our final ever episode. It's been a fun run. Clarke will be on with us, and we're going to drag some friends of the show on, of course, as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. So next week, we'll transition right into our junior hockey coverage. Hopefully you can join us next week for the final MWO Sports.
Just before we go, Ryan, because Clarke's not here, I'm going to squeeze this in.
Yes.
Canada has quite a run going in CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. They tied the U.S. They beat El Salvador. They're currently sitting in a tie for second in that final group stage play. Mexico's ahead of them.
The Hawks, yes.
And so October the 7th, they play in Mexico, which is going to be a huge game. If they can come out of there with a draw, win would be awesome, but even a draw, if they come out with a draw, sets the stage really good for Canada down the stretch for their national soccer squad. And so for all the soccer fans across Midwestern Ontario, there you go. Go Canada, go on the international stage.
Absolutely. And hey, let's quickly mention tennis as well. I wish we had more time. Leila Annie Fernandez and Felix Auger-Aliassime. We're recording this on the night of the semifinals as Leila Annie Fernandez tries to go to the U.S. Open final. Hey, it's a great time to be a sports fan in Canada right now, Steve. Great point by you. And hey, it would be awesome if they could get through the Hawks, the Canadian men's soccer team, and go to a World Cup for the first time since 1986. Hey, that would be a nice change of pace.
And you know what? We got so lucky when we went to the Jays game when we talked about Canadiana, because we saw Warner throw up first pitch. The men's
Damian Warner, that's Damian right, Warner, Olympic gold medalist.
Olympic gold through the first pitch. And thanks to the Snowbirds for flying over the Rogers Center. That was a treat as well. I tell you, we had Canada all wrapped up on Sunday, and it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, wish I could have used a little more California loving on that day, but it just wasn't meant to be. All right, folks, for myself, Ryan Drury, for Steve Sabourin, our guest this week, Chum McAskill, we appreciate you listening to and watching MWO Sports.